Hi, it's Ben, and today I'm going to be walking through the unified Hack the Box challenge. This is apparently a very easy rated challenge. I did not find it very easy. I thought this one was quite hard. It involves a lot of steps, but I did eventually, after a good few hours, manage to solve it. So I'm going to walk through this. This box now. This may be a bit of a long video because it took me a while to do it on the first time, but that is fine. Unified underscore walkthrough. So yeah, I'm getting my unified walkthrough directory there. I'm going to make a recon, exploits, and nmap directory. I'm just going to split up the terminals like I like to do, and I'm going to start with a basic nmap scan covering all the ports. So there we go. Output nmap initial txt. So let's just have a look at some of the ports. It's been a long day. Let's have a look at some of the flags. So the first flag is what is the first four open ports. The port scan is come back. We can see that's 22, 6789, 8080, and 8443. And then what is the title of the software running on port 8433? Okay, so we found we found there's 5 ports open. Let's do a bit of a service scan now. And I'm not going to do it all as it's not needed. 22, 6789, 8080, 8443, 8843, and 8880. Okay, so I forgot to supply the IP, and I forgot to output to nmap thorough.txt. I'm going to get Firefox open, and we can see it's possibly, we don't know for sure, it says it may be running HTTPS, so let's just have a look on this, there we go, let's look at HTTPS, unable to connect, we didn't specify the port, 8443, so this looks like this is a web server running. As obviously it's a self-signed cert, so we're getting this warning error, and it eventually does load. We now know this is Unify 6.4.54, and the title is the Unify Network. So if you look at the flags now, what's the title of the software running on port 8443? That's going to be Unify Network. So what was the version of the software running? It's given to us right there, some version disclosure. That is, was it 6.4.54? So what is the CVE for the identified vulnerability? So we can sort of just search up Unify 6.4.54. That was it, right? 6.4.54 CVE. Let's see what pops up. So I'm going to look at the article released by Ubiquity, because this is probably the most reliable. It's the own it's the vendor like security update, and it says the patch for this one fixes this vulnerability, CVE 2021-44228. So let's just have a look at this vulnerability, and we will discover, if you look, let's look at some of these. This is the log4j vulnerability we all know about. So this is quite a big vulnerability. It affects a lot of different products. We can see it's got a CVS 3.x score of 10, which is by far the highest score possible. So that sort of gives us an indication of what we'll be exploiting. So we can obviously answer this vulnerability, this flag now. What is the CVE for the identified vulnerability? CVE 2021-44228. and then it goes on to say, what protocol does JNDI leverage in the injection? So it's jumping ahead on this next question. It's assuming that we found out, look, this is a log4j vulnerability, and we're going to be exploiting it. It's asking us the protocol this JNDI leverages in this log4j injection. If you read the description here, you can see JDN features used in configuration log messages and parameters do not protect against attacker-controlled LDAP. So, lightweight directory access protocol, I believe that is. Yeah. So the protocol JNDI leverages in this case will be LDAP. We're gonna use some LDAP queries which we send to the server somehow, to the web server, and we're going to use this to try get a reverse shell. So we could just search up. Now we know this. We know a bit more. We can do some more research. We can say unify network log4j. We can try find some stuff. If you looked on, and this is what I did do, I opened up MSF console, and I said log4j, and we find this this exploit here. I tried using this, it didn't work for some reason, so I didn't have much luck with that one. I also had a look at this POC, and I tried this. This didn't work for me either. So I wasn't. This is where I sort of got stuck. I was at like a dead end. I was trying a lot of different things, and then I eventually, what I did do is I looked at this code here, and I tried to see what is it actually doing. How is it executing this? So if you look, there's this line here where it says crafting a payload, adding in multiple fields, and this is the payload which gets sent to the server. Where is this payload actually getting sent? How do we get from this login screen to the point where executing a payload? Well, there's this URL. So there's this API/login where we send a request to, right? And in our request we include the payload, and we can see further down we make a post request, and we supply the URL which is supplied in the script, and then we supply the data, the post data, which is used here. So how I went around doing this, I looked at this POC, and I basically tried to create my own. For some reason, maybe it was me being stupid, using this, cloning this GitHub and installing all the things didn't work. So I instead took the individual parts of this script, this POC, and sort of built it myself. Sort of, not really. So let's just X out of this. We know there's this API call, this post request to API/API/login. So at what point does this happen? If we try sniff some of this HTTP traffic, we can just do a basic admin login, and we see it makes a post request, and it's just loading. Once it responds, so yeah, it makes a post request, and it supplies some credentials here. If you look at the where it makes this post request to, it makes it to this /API/login, and this is what we've seen in this exploit. So we know we're at the right place. What I then did is I got Burp Sweep open because I want to play around with it myself. I want to see what I can do with this. Can I perhaps test if I can do LDAP injection, and if so, and my little test shows that it is vulnerable, how can I exploit it? So let's just go back to the flags and see what we've got so far. So yeah, what protocol does JNDI leverage in the injection? And then it says, what tool do we intercept the traffic, indicating the attack was successful? So we're going to do this LDAP injection, right? And before we get to this complex exploitation part, we want to know if it is vulnerable in the first place. We want to send it some payload to see, is this vulnerable? Do we get a callback via LDAP? And then it says, what port do we need to intercept traffic for? So the tool we're using to intercept traffic is going to be TCP dump. You may have heard of it before. It's a tool which allows you to intercept network traffic, so TCP dumped. And the port we need to inspect for intercepted traffic will be the LDAP port. So I just searched up when I was doing this LDAP port. And it says the default port for LDAP is port 389, and that is the right one. Anyway, let's get to some of the actual nitty-gritty stuff. So I've got open Burp Suite. I want to intercept this traffic, so then I can send it to the repeater, and we can have a bit more. We're a bit more flexible instead of just being stuck in this browser. So I'm going to just refresh this here. Let's see if I can capture the traffic. Admin. There was an error making that request. Please try again later. Let's try again. Okay. I'm just going to turn this off. Admin. Let's see if this works. Okay, so yeah, it does work now. So I'm going to send this to repeater. Like I said, this gives us a bit more flexibility and allows us to send lots of payloads through to basically trial and error and try find what is an exploit which works. So I'm going to get up this POC and I'm going to have a look. So this apparently generates a reverse shell. I tried it and didn't work. So I can see there's this template where it crafts the payload, and it puts the payload in two places. It puts it in the username field, and it puts it in the remember field. So what we could do is we could copy this payload here, make some changes to it. So we'll copy it and we'll put this, for example, in the username field like so, and I'll put it in the remember field like so. And what I'll do is, because we want to capture the responses, we want to see, look, is this vulnerable? Can we exploit this? So we want to see if we use TCP dump and we use the port like option to capture traffic on port 389, which is the default LDAP port. The interface I want to listen on is ton0, my VPN interface, and then I'm just going to use sudo as I need to be sudo for this. And so now I'm listening for this traffic on port 389, and I've got the payload here. So this JNDI, when it's logged, it can execute LDAP queries, and the LDAP query is going to basically do a callback. In this case, it's going to see if I can reference my box. If I can talk to my attacking machine. So I'll put my ton0 IP here, which is 10.16.31. I'm going to change the default port it tries to contact to 389. I'm also going to get rid of this /o tomcat, as that's not necessarily needed at this point. And I'll change this to 389, like so. What I'll do actually, I'll get rid of the username to first, and we'll see if we can find if one of these fields is vulnerable. I don't want to call both at the same time. Let's just start off with one. If one doesn't work, we can build upon it. So let's just put the IP here, 10.10.16.31. So let's let's give this a go. Let's see if this works. So let's send this request, and we get this invalid payload error. We don't get any traffic captured here. So what I did is I tried removing one of like the semicolons on each, not semicolon, the curly braces, and setting this as the payload. And then I did this again, and we can see we get some traffic back here. So what we've found now is we can execute LDAP queries. We can call back to the hacking machine, my box, basically. So at that point, I just close this down. No, it's here. So we can see it crafts a reverse shell command, and it starts malicious JDNI server. So it's using this command here to start a JDNI server, and it's passing the reverse shell into here, and we're contacting it and calling it. So this rogue JDNI, let's have a look up. Let's Google this, rogue JDNI. That's not what I search for. GitHub. So a malicious LDAP server. So a malicious LDAP server for JDNI injection attacks. So this basically acts as a JDNI server where we can, from our attacking machine, we can make a call to, we can exploit the log4j vulnerability to execute a JDNI command, which will then send an LDAP query to our box. Our box will have this rogue, a fake JDNI server, waiting to receive a command, and once it receives that, once it's got this connection, it will then send back a command to which can be executed. This rogue JDNI will sort of act like a middleman to send commands back to the target machine. So yeah, it's quite confusing, but let's start getting practical and actually let's actually get on and do some hacking. So it looks like I didn't do it in the right directory. Never mind. Let's cd into unified underscore walkthrough, and let's make directory exploits. I want to copy this rogue JDNI server, as we'll need this rogue cd into exploits, and I'm going to git clone this. So git clone this, and we've got this rogue JDNI server now. Clear. And I'm also, we know this is working, so I'm going to get rid of this tab, and I'm going to, so yeah, we've got the rogue JDNI server. I'm just going to cd into that. I'm going to change my directory into there, and I'm going to look at the syntax. What do we need to run? So I also did some more Googling at this point. I searched up unify rogue JNDI log4j, and I tried to find some other walkthroughs explaining this. I'm not sure if I can find any. Oh, was this the one I was reading? Yeah, that was this one here. This wasn't the article I was looking at earlier, but this should do. So if you look in the exploit.py, we can see, look, it passes the payload here, and it uses this subprocess.popen. So this will basically run a system call, a system command through Python, and we know what this command is here. We've got the contents of the command. It's java -jar, and then it runs this jar file, and then it supplies some command flag. So it says the command I want to run is bash -c to specify it wants to run a bash command, and then it supplies the actual command in here. So it's base64 decoding a command, and then it's executing it. What is this base64 encoded command? It's the reverse shell up here which it encoded. So it encodes the reverse shell, saves it as base64, and then it supplies it in this rogue JDNI server as a tag. So once we've got a basic RCE, we can remotely run commands. It gets it to call back to a reverse shell, and what it's calling back to is our host. We do have to make some changes, but I will demonstrate. So the command which is running is java /jar, and then it's utils. Let me just check. Let's have a look. Or I have to do, if we go back here, we have to do nvm package, and this will just install it. So there we go. I'll let that do its thing. And this will just set up this. Okay, we've got some more files now. Nice. So yeah, actually here's the command we can use. So yeah, java, and then it uses the jar, the -jar option, and then we'll go in the target directory, and we can use the rogue RDNI jar file. The command we want to use, if we look at this one here, we want to get, we want to go down here. We want to base64 encode this string here, and then we want to replace this with our IP. So let's just do base64. Is it tac E to encode? Encode base64. Okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Where is it? Where is it? There we go. So we're gonna supply command in a bit. The host name is going to be our host, so 10.10.16.31. There's, if you look in the options, there's this LDAP port. We're going to use, the default is set to 1389. We're actually going to use 389 because that's what the challenge specified earlier. And the command we want to run once we've got RCE is this base64 encoded command. So we're going to, I'm just trying to find it. We're going to use this reverse shell here. It doesn't have to be this one, but any bash reverse shell will do. And I'm just going to go out of here. I'm going to go rev shell .txt. I'm going to put this in here, and then I'm going to change this. So the callback is going to be my IP 10.10.16.31. The port this time isn't the LDAP port, it's the port I'll be listening on for this reverse shell, and that will be, let's just call 31337, the LEET port. And I believe that's all we need to do. Base64, and I just want to find out. I want to find out the syntax, how we encode this. Or maybe if we just go cat rev shell into basic, does this do it? Base64. Okay, that I think that's right. So we've got the base64 encoded of the reverse shell, and then if we look back in the command here, we can see how it's how it's used here. So let's just use payload.txt. We'll copy this here, and that's the payload. And then I'm going to open up another one here, which is the rev shell, and I wanted to base 64 encode it. Did I save that anywhere? I didn't. So let's clear this up a bit. So what do we want to do? We want to base 64 encode it. Base. We're going to cut out this rev shell. We're going to base 64 encode it, and then we're going to pipe this to rev shell encoded.txt, and then let's just cut this out just to make sure this works. Yes, we've got the base 64 encoded in this file here. Cool. And then if we look over here where the rev shell is, we're going to replace this with the string of our base 64 encoded reverse shell. So if you're lost at this point, let's just quickly go back over through it. So we've got this LDAP command. It's going to run a bash command on the remote server. So we start off by using this log4j vulnerability to send a request out to our rogue JDNI server. Our rogue JDNI server then replies and is able to supply RCE, remote command execution. The command it executes is this reverse shell. It executes this reverse shell by decoding an encoded reverse shell and then piping it to be executed. So I'm hoping this will work. I can say I'm not 100% confident. So let's cut out this payload, and we'll supply this as the command. So the command will be this. And we're going to need to use, because there's double, we'll need to do it like this. Okay. Let's just have a look. Whose name is the callback? That looks alright. I reckon it won't be. And yeah, if we go back to the rogue JDNI, there's many supported payloads. You call these payloads by sending your LDAP request to these different, using this O parameter to use the payload. I tried out a few. The Tomcat one worked for me, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to try use that here. So I've got this here. I'm going to run this. Okay, that's alright. That looks like it's working. If we go back on here, and now we send this request to Tomcat. Okay, that looked like it ran. So what I need to do as well, in here, I'm just going to quit this out. Quit. There we go. I'm going to get a netcat listener on 31337. That's the IP I used. And I'm going to try send this again. And that didn't execute. So we're getting a callback to our rogue RDNI server, but this payload here I'm using is wrong. So I need to find out why. Or did I use? Let's just cut out rev shell. What is the 31337? That is definitely right. Okay, let's try do some googling. Unify reverse shell rogue Pretty. Looks like I'm not getting a lot. Let's, on my host box, I searched up for it. Unify LDAP log4j-poc. Was it this one here? There was an article I used somewhere which gave me some indication. Oh, it was this. It was this. It was this. It was this. Okay, so I'll put this here. That's not what I want to do. Sorry. Neither was that. Okay, so I'll move this across here. The command I used was actually, there we go. It was echo, and then it was bash c bash tag I at and dev tcp, and then my IP here 10.10.16.31. The port I'll be listening on is 31337, and I want to pipe everything to standard out like so. Okay, that was a bit I did it was a bit wrong on my first one, but I believe this should work now. So yeah, I've got this base64 encoded file here. Now I'm going to change this to, I'll get rid of this. And did it, oh, maybe it was because I shouldn't have done it like this. I shouldn't have done this bit in quotes. I should have just gone like this. That was another thing I did wrong. And that has 2 around it. So I've also found all of these have 1 extra. Okay, so I'm gonna have to make a few changes to this. Like before, that POC I copied had these double curly braces around it all. This looks more like it. Let's try this again. There we go, and if we send a request here, boom, we've got a reverse shell. Nice, that is what I like to see. The problem with this reverse shell, it's not that nice. It's a pretty ugly reverse shell. I like a interpreter shell, it's got a lot more capabilities, so that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to generate one here. I'm not going to use this 31337 port. I'm going to use just 1337. There we go. That will generate a payload, and then I'm going to open up interpreter here. I'll use it here, MS Venom, MS Console, sorry. I'm going to use multi-handler. I'm going to set payload to Linux x64 architecture, interpreter, and reverse TCP. I'm going to set lhost to be 10.10.16.31. I'm going to set lport to be 1337. I'm going to run listen for connections on here. I've got this. I'm going to move this out of here. Move rev shell. So I've got the rev shell file there. I'm now going to get a HTTP server running here. I'm going to curl this onto the box 10.10.16.31. And I just want to check. Yeah, I've got my still recording. I'm going to curl this on rev shell. I'm going to output this as rev shell as well. We also need to specify the port. That would have given me an error. Rev shell output rev shell. The rev shell is there. I'm going to make this executable. Rev shell, and I'm going to run this. I'm sending the stage over here, so I'll be getting an interpreter session. Nice. Okay, I'm going to close this one down here, close this one down here. We've got an interpreter session. Let's catch up with the flags. Let's see where we got to. So, yeah, what port is the MongoDB service running on? So, at first, I just searched up MongoDB default port. Let's have a look at the default port. So, it's 20017. That may not be the port it's running on. We can do some investigation. You can use the netstack command in Meterpreter and it lists out the ports, and we can see very similar to the 27017. There's this 2117, and if you look at the processes which is running, you can see look, it is running MongoDB there. So I entered the flag 2117 as a MongoDB. That was right. The default database name for a Unify application. If you search up Unify MongoDB default name, and we'll try see if we can look around and try find the default name. So there's this use ace, and that is the name. That is the default database name is ace. So we can then use Mongo to actually to connect to this database. We can say Mongo port 27117, and we're gonna use the credentials ace and connect failed. Let's see what I did wrong there. I'm just going to find out. Okay, that's why. Mongo, let's try this. Port 27177 ace. That has also failed. Was it because I did 27117? There we go. Okay, so originally I did this tac p. It wasn't tac p, it was tac port. I did the correct port. I then changed it to tac p. Tac port, and then used an incorrect port. I eventually got it right on the final time. Anyway, where were we at? So, what function can we use to enumerate users within a database in MongoDB? So let's do some googling. Let's search up MongoDB enumerate users. So there's this db.getUsers method. You can look around. I eventually figured out there's this. That's not what I want to do. Sorry. There we go. I eventually figured out there's this db.admin.find, and we get a list of all the users. If you go up to the top, we can see there's this administrator user. So this, if you've got a bit lost so far, this is the database which stores is the database for this Unify Ubiquity login page. So it stores the credentials, the usernames, and you can see it stores the hashes of their passwords. So we've got that flag. We've got that. Sorry. Yeah, no, it is what I want. We've got this flag here. List the users. This is the DB. Ooh, I didn't want to spoil that. The DB dot. I'm all over the place. Sorry. Enumerate users. This is the db.admin.find. The function we use to update users. You can search this up. How do you update users in MongoDB? There's this .update user. If you search up and actually specify Unify restore access, there's this db.admin.find, and there's also this db.admin.update. So that's what we're looking for. So we can change the password of a user, right? We can change the password of a user as we have access to the database. We can use this db.admin.update, which is this flag here, to update the administrator's password. So let's just go back onto Firefox this time. Unify db.admin.update Mongo change password. So let's try find some documentation on this. So what this command does basically, it sets, it updates the password for the name admin. So if I'm going to close this down here, I'm just going to copy this whole script here because we're going to make some changes to it. So it sets the username admin. Our admin username, if we look at the top here, is administrator. So administrator, and it sets the hash of the password for them. If you look up, this is just the password. The password for the admin user is set to password. So if we try this, we try update the administrator password, and we'll enter this command here. It says it's modified 1, and it's made some changes. So perhaps we've updated the password now. Let's just go back on here, and let's see if we can now log in with administrator. So administrator password. And it's loading. Is that going to work? And it does work. So we've logged in as administrator by changing the password. You can have a look around, but I want to end this quick. Eventually, you'll find, if you look in settings, there's this enable SSH authentication with root and the password for root, and you can view this, and the password is not a crackable password for you to see, I believe it says, for U22. Yeah, for U2022. So let's get, this is one of the flags. This is this flag here, not a crackable password for U2022. Now we need to find the user and root flags. So we've got access to this, so I'm just going to exit out of this. Exit. We've got root access now, and if we just make sure we've copied that. The IP is 10.129. Let me just grab the IP. I forgot that again. 10.129 96.96.149. We'll say yes, and the password, we'll paste that in. We've got root access. We can cat out the root.txt flag. That's there. And we can cd into home, see what users there are, go into the Michael directory, cat out the user.txt flag there. So, that is this challenge complete. We've got all the flags. This was a long one. I apologise for being a bit all over the place today. It's a bit late where I am, and I've had a long day. But we did get there eventually. So I hope you've enjoyed this one.